Welcome back to episode 2 of how to make your body tube for your rocket. In the previous lesson, we had wrapped our tubes so that we had one complete layer that covered the entire sheet of tissue paper. My words are gone. Before you start this next layer, just do one quick little check and make sure that your top layer is not stuck to your mold, because if it is, then you'll just make it worse and it'll be harder to get loose later on. We're going to do our second layer now, and this one's a little tricky because what you want to do is you want to roll it in the opposite direction. And this takes a little bit of practice. Again, take your wet sponge and nicely moisten a strip of the gum tape, just like we did in the first lesson. And this time, we're going to roll it from the bottom up in the same kind of angle. I wish I had a Sharpie here or something. The lines are going diagonal downward here. And so I want to roll it in the opposite direction. So you're going to roll them so that it crisscrosses over what you already have there. And what this will do is this will ensure that your body tube has some strength going in the opposite direction, and that way it'll hold up better, it'll be sturdier, it won't bend in the middle under the weight of all of the packing material, etc. So I'm trying to use a different color here so that you can see how this is working. Again, we're just kind of layering it round and round, kind of like a candy cane. And we're gonna, the same as we did last time, we're just gonna fill that in until it's covered like a solid. And like I said before, sometimes it's easier to cut strips out instead of trying to roll it when it's still attached to a big old roll. But whatever works for you, cut them smaller. It doesn't have to go all the way to the end in one wrap. You can use several sheets, however it works for you. The key is you want to get it nice and flat and smooth with as few bubbles and things like that as possible. So I'm gonna start this next layer, and remember, each new layer you want to overlap a bit so that you have strength where they overlap. And it's okay if it doesn't look super even on the top. We are going to be cutting and trimming it anyway. So just kind of going round and round. That's dried out. Sometimes you might have to re-wet it a little bit here and there. Make sure that it stays nice and sticky so that you can ensure that it's gonna hold together. And cutting it off at the end. And probably gonna need to do 1 or 2 more strips. So pull that back out again. And we just keep doing this until we've got a second nice, complete, solid, sturdy layer. Most of the time, 2 layers should be enough. However, you can base that on how you feel about the sturdiness of your body tube. Sometimes if you get a lot of like bubbles or folds or something in there, you might want to try and do an extra layer for strength. But usually if we just do 2 good solid layers like what I'm doing here, that should be enough. Just a little bit here. And got a few empty areas, so I'm going to do a few smaller pieces. And just like I said, don't have to do them all in big long rolls. You can roll what you can and then fill it in with some smaller pieces like what I'm doing here. Another piece here. But as you can see, my goal is to go and cover up every bit of white that is already showing. So notice the top's pretty well covered here, but I still have this one kind of area right here because I kind of a little bit of a fold in it right there. So I'm gonna do one more piece, and I think that should be all I need. And again, like I said before, sometimes it's helpful to have an extra set of hands. So if you have a sibling or a parent who's just kind of standing around watching, put their hands to work, have them give you a hand, holding stuff, helping to turn it. Last cut here. Put this extra little piece right there, and that should be pretty good. And like I said before you let it dry, do a quick tug on that pool noodle, make sure it slides around. You might want to check some of the ends like this, give them a little dab, make sure that they're nice and well attached. And so now you should be getting a pretty good sturdy kind of tube being made there. And remember, you're going to want to do this twice so that you have 2 tubes. So once this one dries, we're going to pretend like it sat out overnight. You're going to want to do a second one. So I've got this second one that I started here, and you're going to want to do the same thing to, well, it's not going on there very well. You're going to want to do 2 layers, and when you're all done, you're going to have 2 lengths of body tube that will then form the upper and the lower halves of your rocket. Remember that together they need to be at least 650 millimeters, which is 62 centimeters, and 62 and a half centimeters. And that's about a little bit less than 22 inches. So together they need to be at least 22 inches. So mine are fine for that. But we will be trimming them up, and obviously we have nose cones and things like that to add as well. So When you're done with this step, one last time, you should have 2 lengths of body tube, and each one of those lengths of body tubes should have 2 complete layers of gum tape on them. You should still have gum tape left over because we will also need that for forming the coupler. And we will also be using it potentially for the nose cone, depending on what you decide in your design. So go ahead and stop this video now and finish up doing your 2 body tubes. When you're done with those 2, then watch video number 3, where we will begin making the engine mount. So hope you're doing good, and miss you guys all.